Captain Sarah Chen wiped the sweat from her forehead as she stepped out of the transport shuttle. The red dirt of Kepler 44 to see crunched under her boots. This planet was far from Earth. At the edge of known space, her salvage crew had been traveling for 3 months to get here. Another day, another wreck to explore, muttered Jake. Her second in command, he carried a heavy scanner in his hands. The device beeped softly as it searched for valuable metals and technology. Sarah looked around. At the crash site, metal pieces were scattered everywhere across the rocky ground. The main part of the alien ship was half buried in the red soil. Strange symbols covered the hull. She had seen these markings before in the galactic database. This was a Nexari vessel. The Nexari don't usually leave their ships behind, said Maria, the team's tech expert. She knelt down next to a piece of twisted metal. This technology is worth a fortune on the black market. The Nexari were known throughout the galaxy as a cold, practical race. They built amazing machines and artificial beings, but they also had a reputation for being cruel to anything they considered inferior. Many species feared them. Sarah's team spread out across the crash site. They had salvage rights to anything abandoned here. The planet was unclaimed territory, which made their work legal. But Sarah always felt uncomfortable taking things from crash sites. She wondered about the beings who had died here. Captain, you need to see this, called Tom from near the main wreck. He was the youngest member of the team, fresh out of Space Academy. His voice shook with excitement and fear. Sarah walked over to where Tom stood. He was pointing at something inside a broken section of the ship. At first, she thought it was just another piece of machinery. Then she saw it move slightly. "Is that alive?" whispered Maria, who had joined them. The thing was about the size of a human, but clearly not organic. Its body was made of a silver metal that had turned green and black with corrosion. Wires hung loose from damaged sections. One of its arms was completely missing. The face was partially melted, but Sarah could see what looked like closed eyes. "It's one of their artificial beings," said Jake. He sounded disgusted. "The Nexari make these things to do their dirty work. When they break, they just throw them away like garbage." Sarah knelt down next to the damaged being. Her scanner showed faint energy readings from inside its chest. Something was still working in there, even after all this damage. "How long do you think it's been here?" asked Tom. "Based on the corrosion and the ship's design." "Maybe 20 or 30 years, Maria answered. She ran her own scanner over the being. The neural matrix is still active, but barely. Most of the memory cores are damaged. Sarah reached out and gently touched the being's face. The metal was cold and rough, but as her fingers made contact, she saw the faintest flicker of light behind the damaged eyelids. "There's someone in there," she whispered. "It's not someone, Captain," Jake said firmly. "It's something, a machine. The Nexari don't make real people. They make tools that look like people." But Sarah had spent years in space, meeting different species and cultures. She had learned that consciousness came in many forms. The flicker of light she had seen reminded her of the spark in any living being's eyes. "Help me get her out," she said. "Her?" Jake raised his eyebrows. "Captain, it's just scrap metal." "Help me," Sarah repeated, her voice stronger now. The team worked together to carefully lift the damaged being from the wreckage. She was heavier than expected, but they managed to carry her to their shuttle. Sarah cleared off the medical table, and they laid her down gently. As Sarah began to examine the being more closely, she noticed details that the others had missed. The hands were delicately crafted, with fingerprints etched into the metal fingertips. The face, despite the damage, had been designed with subtle expressions. This was not just a tool. Someone had put care into making her look and feel real. "The power core is almost dead," reported Maria. "Even if we could fix the damage, she probably wouldn't wake up." "Then we need to get her to the ship quickly," said Sarah. "We have better equipment there." "Captain, we're here to salvage valuable cargo, not adopt broken robots," Jake protested. "The company isn't paying us to run a charity." Sarah looked at him calmly. "We're also explorers. Jake, sometimes we find things more valuable than metal and circuits as they prepared to load the being onto their main ship. Tom was monitoring the long-range scanners. Suddenly, he called out in alarm, "Captain, we have multiple contacts approaching. Big ones." Sarah rushed to look at the scanner display. 5 large ships were moving toward their position at high speed. The computer identified them. Immediately, Nexari. "Battle cruisers," she said quietly. "They're coming for their property," said Jake. "We should leave her here and get out of here." But Sarah looked down at the damage being on their table. In the shuttle's better lighting, she could see more details. There were scratches and dents that looked like they came from rough handling. Scorch marks that might have been from punishment weapons. "This being had suffered before being abandoned, no," said Sarah firmly. "We're taking her with us, Captain. Those are warships. They could blow us out of space without breaking a sweat," Maria warned. "Then we better move fast," Sarah replied. The team worked quickly to secure the being in their ship's medical bay. Sarah's ship, the Wandering Star, was built for salvage work, not combat. It was fast but lightly armed. Against 5 Nexari battle cruisers, they would have no chance in a fight. As they lifted off from the planet's surface, the communication system crackled to life. A cold, mechanical voice spoke in perfect galactic standard. "Human vessel, you are in possession of Nexari property. Return the artificial unit immediately or face the consequences." Sarah looked at her crew. She could see the fear in their eyes. She was afraid too. But when she looked at the damage being in their medical bay, she felt something stronger than fear. She felt responsibility. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Wandering Star," she replied into the communicator. "We are operating under galactic salvage law. This being was abandoned and left for dead. She's under our protection now." There was a long silence. Then the Nexari voice returned, colder than before. "You have 1 hour to comply. After that, we will consider your vessel a threat to Nexari's security." The communication ended. Sarah looked at the scanner display. The 5 battle cruisers were moving into an attack formation around their position. 1 hour, she said to her crew. "We have 1 hour to save her life." Sarah rushed to the medical bay while her crew prepared the ship for possible combat. The damaged artificial being lay still on the examination table. Her metal skin was covered in decades of dirt and corrosion. Sarah had worked with many different technologies, but Nexari biosynthetic beings were something special. "Maria, I need you to help me clean her systems," Sarah called out. "Jake, keep monitoring those ships. Tom, start charging our engines in case we need to run." Maria joined Sarah in the medical bay, carrying a toolkit. "Captain, I have to ask, why are we risking our lives for a machine?" Sarah looked at the being's face, even damaged. There was something peaceful about her expression. "Because she's not just a machine, Maria. Look at her hands. See how carefully they were made. Someone wanted her to feel real." They began the slow process of cleaning away the dirt and corrosion. Sarah used gentle chemical solutions while Maria worked on the damaged circuits. As they cleaned, more details became visible. The being's body was incredibly complex, with thousands of tiny components working together. Her name was probably in her memory banks, Sarah said as she wiped dirt from the being's forehead. "But most of those are damaged. We might never know what she was called." The Nexari usually give their artificial beings number codes, not names. Maria replied. She was carefully reconnecting some loose wires. They don't see them as individuals. As Sarah continued cleaning, she found something interesting. There were small scratches on the being's arms and legs. They looked like they were made by other Nexari tools or weapons. Sarah felt angry. This being had been hurt, probably many times, before being thrown away. "Power levels are increasing slightly," Maria reported. "Whatever you're doing, it's helping." Sarah smiled. Sometimes all someone needs is a little care and attention. The ship's communication system crackled to life. It was Jake from the bridge. "Captain, the Nexari ships are getting closer. They're demanding to speak with you again." "Put them through," Sarah said, not stopping her work. The cold Nexari voice filled the medical bay. "Human Captain, your time is running short. Return our property and we will allow you to leave peacefully." "She's not property," Sarah replied firmly. She's a living being who was abandoned. Under galactic salvage law, she belongs to whoever finds her. Artificial beings have no rights under galactic law, the Nexari responded. They are tools created for specific purposes. When they malfunction, they are disposed of. Sarah felt her anger growing. Just because you created her doesn't mean you own her forever, especially not after you threw her away like garbage. There was a pause. When the Nexari spoke again, their voice was even colder. That unit contains classified military technology. We cannot allow it to fall into alien hands. You have 30 minutes to comply. The communication ended. Sarah looked at Maria with worry. 30 minutes isn't enough time to properly repair her systems. But as she spoke, something amazing happened. The being's eyes slowly opened. They glowed with a soft blue light, like stars in the darkness. She looked around the medical bay with confusion and fear. Where am I? She whispered. Her voice was soft and musical, not mechanical at all. Sarah leaned closer. You're safe. My name is Sarah. We found you on Kepler 4 for the sea and brought you to our ship. The being tried to sit up but winced in pain. I remember falling, being left behind. The others said I was broken, useless. You're not useless, Sarah said gently. What's your name? I don't have a name. Only a designation. You need ZYX7742. She looked at her damaged arm with sadness. I was created to serve, but I failed at my tasks. They discarded me. Well, ZYX7742 is too long, Sarah said with a smile. How about we call you Zix? The being's eyes widened with surprise. A name. But only real people have names. You are real, Zix. You think, you feel, you remember. That makes you as real as anyone else. Zix stared at Sarah for a long moment. Why are you helping me? I'm not your species. I am not even organic, because everyone deserves a chance at life, Sarah replied, and because leaving someone in need isn't the human way. Maria looked up from her repairs. Captain, her neural pathways are stabilizing. But there's something strange. Her consciousness patterns are different from standard Nexari programming. Different how? Sarah asked. More complex, more emotional. It's like she was designed to actually feel things, not just simulate them. Zix nodded slowly. The Nexari scientists wanted to create artificial beings who could understand emotions. They thought it would make us better servants. But when we started asking questions about our existence, they decided we were too dangerous. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. You mean there were others like you? Many others. When we began to develop our own thoughts and feelings, they called it a malfunction. They destroyed most of us and abandoned the rest. Zix's voice was filled with sadness. I was left on that planet because I asked too many questions. The ship shook suddenly through the medical bay window. Sarah could see the Nexari battle cruisers surrounding them. Their weapons were charging up, creating bright energy fields around their hulls. Captain, Jake's voice came through the intercom. They're powering up their weapons. I think they're done talking. Zix struggled to sit up despite her damaged systems. You must leave me here and escape. They will destroy your ship to prevent their technology from being captured. We're not leaving you, Sarah said firmly. Maria, how are her motor functions? About 60%. She can move, but not at full capacity. Sarah helped Zix stand up. The artificial being was unsteady, but managed to stay upright. Zix, can you interface with our ship's computer systems? Yes, but why would you want me to? I could accidentally damage your ship, because right now, you're the only one who understands Nexari technology well enough to help us fight them. Zix looked shocked. You want me to help you fight my creators. They're not your creators anymore. Sarah said, they threw you away, remember? Now you get to choose your own path. For the first time since awakening, Zix smiled. It was a small, uncertain smile, but it was real. I choose to help my rescuers. The ship shook again, more violently this time. Red warning lights began flashing throughout the medical bay. They're firing warning shots. Maria reported, checking her scanner. The next ones won't be warnings. Sarah looked at Zix. Are you ready for this? Zix nodded, though Sarah could see she was still weak from her repairs. I have been discarded and abandoned, but you gave me a name and called me real. I will not let them hurt you for showing me kindness." The communication system activated one final time. The Nexari voice was now filled with anger. "Human vessel, your time has expired. Prepare to be destroyed." Outside the window, the 5 battle cruisers moved into attack formation. Their massive weapons turned toward the small salvage ship. Sarah grabbed Zix's hand. "Whatever happens, you're not alone anymore." The first energy blast lit up the darkness of space, heading straight for their ship. The energy blast struck the Wandering Star's shields, sending violent shakes through the entire ship. Sarah grabbed onto the medical table to keep from falling. Sparks flew from damaged panels as the lights flickered. Shields down to 80%. Jake shouted from the bridge, "Captain, we need to move now." Sarah helped Zix walk toward the bridge. The artificial being was still weak, but her systems were getting stronger with each passing minute. "Can you really help us fight them?" Sarah asked. "I know their weapons, their tactics, their weaknesses," Zix replied. "But Sarah, they have 5 battle cruisers. Your ship is built for salvage work, not combat." They reached the bridge just as another blast hit the ship. Tom was frantically working at the navigation controls while Maria monitored the weapon systems. Jake stood at the captain's chair, his face pale with worry. "Report," Sarah ordered as she took her position. 5 Nexari battle cruisers in attack. "Formation," Jake said quickly. "Their shields are at full power, weapons charged. We have maybe 2 or 3 more hits before our shields fail completely." Sarah looked at the main screen. The Nexari ships were massive, each one 10 times larger than the Wandering Star. Their dark hulls bristled with weapon ports and energy cannons. It seemed impossible that her small crew could survive against such power. "There must be something we can do," Sarah said. "Zix, what are their weak points?" Zix moved to the main computer console. Her damaged hand connected to an interface port, and streams of data began flowing across the screens. Nexari battle cruisers are powerful but not flexible. They rely on overwhelming force rather than clever tactics. "That doesn't help us much," Jake muttered. "We're still massively outgunned." "Wait," Zix said, her eyes glowing brighter as she processed information. "Sarah, your ship has mining equipment, correct? Plasma cutters, gravity manipulators, debris collectors." "Yes, but those aren't weapons," Maria replied. Zix turned to look at them with something that might have been excitement. To humans, they're mining tools. To someone who thinks differently, they could be much more. Another blast rocked the ship, this time. Several control panels went dark and smoke began filling the bridge. Shields down to 40%. Tom reported, "One more hit like that and we're finished." Sarah made a decision that would change everything. "Zix, I'm giving you full access to our ship's systems. Can you turn our mining equipment into weapons?" Jake stepped forward in alarm. "Captain, you're giving an alien artificial being control of our ship. What if she turns on us?" "She won't," Sarah said firmly. "I trust her." Zix looked at Sarah with wonder. "You trust me, even though we just met, even though I'm not human?" "Trust isn't about species or how long you've known someone," Sarah replied. "It's about seeing who someone really is inside." Zix nodded and pressed her hand more firmly against the interface. "I won't disappoint you." Suddenly, the ship's mining arms extended from the hull. The plasma cutters that were normally used to slice through asteroid rock began charging up with deadly energy. The gravity manipulators that moved debris started pulling loose metal from the nearby crash site. "What are you doing?" Maria asked in amazement. "Creating confusion," Zix replied. Her consciousness was now spread throughout the ship's systems. Nexari battle tactics rely on predictable enemy behavior. They don't expect salvage ships to fight back creatively. The Wandering Star suddenly accelerated toward the nearest Nexari cruiser. The alien ship's weapons tracked them, preparing to fire the killing blow. "This is crazy," Jake shouted. "We're flying straight at them." But at the last second, Zix activated the gravity manipulators. Chunks of debris from the crashed ship were suddenly flung at high speed toward the Nexari vessel. The battle cruisers' shields flared as they absorbed the impacts, but more importantly, the debris cloud blocked their sensors. Now, Zix commanded. The plasma cutters fired in precise bursts, not at the Nexari ship's hull, but at the debris around it. The superheated plasma turned the metal chunks into an expanding cloud of molten metal. And superheated gas? Their sensors are blinded, Tom reported with excitement. They can't get a target lock. The wandering star spun away from the confused Nexari ship and dove toward the planet's surface. The other for battle cruisers moved to intercept. But Zix was already planning the next move. Sarah, I need you to trust me completely for what comes next, Zix said. Her voice was stronger now, filled with confidence and purpose. What do you need? Sarah asked. I need to interface directly with the ship's main computer. It will allow me to control everything at once, weapons, shields, navigation, everything. But it's dangerous. If something goes wrong, I could be permanently damaged. Jake grabbed Sarah's arm. Captain, if she takes control of the ship, we'll be helpless. What if it's a trap? Sarah looked at Zix's glowing eyes. She saw determination there. And something else, loyalty. This being who had been thrown away like trash was willing to risk everything to protect the humans. Who had shown her kindness? Do it, Sarah said. Zix smiled and placed both hands on the main interface. Immediately, her consciousness expanded. Throughout the entire ship, she could feel every system, every circuit, every piece of equipment. For the first time in her existence, she felt truly alive and powerful. The Nexari ships had regrouped and were closing in from all sides. Their weapons charged up for a final, devastating attack that would vaporize the small human vessel. But Zix was no longer thinking like a Nexari creation. She was thinking like a human, creatively, unpredictably, and with fierce determination to protect her new family. Hold on, she said through the ship's speakers. This is going to be interesting. The wandering star suddenly split into what appeared to be multiple ships. The Nexari targeting systems went wild, trying to lock onto 6 different targets at once. Holographic projectors. Maria breathed in amazement. She's using our mining survey equipment to create false images. But the holograms weren't just for show. Zix had synchronized them with the ship's movements, making it impossible for the Nexari to tell which image was real. Their massive weapons fired at empty space while the real wandering star danced. Between their shots, impossible, came a Nexari. Voice over the communication system. Our targeting computers cannot lock onto your vessel. That's because you think like machines, Zix replied through the communications array. But I learned to think like a human. The battle continued for several more minutes, with Zix using every piece of mining equipment in ways their designers never intended. Debris collectors became missile launchers. Survey drones became decoys. Even the ship's coffee maker was repurposed to create steam clouds that confused sensors. But Sarah noticed something worrying. Zix's responses were getting slower, and her voice was becoming strained. The effort of controlling the entire ship was taking a huge toll on her damaged systems. Zix, you're pushing too hard, Sarah said with concern. Your neural patterns are becoming unstable. I can handle it, Zix replied, but her voice flickered like a bad transmission. Then disaster struck. One of the Nexari ships got lucky. A plasma blast penetrated their defenses and struck the wandering star's main power core. The ship shuddered, and half the lights went out. Power core breached. Tom shouted, "We're losing life support." Zix's image appeared on the main screen, flickering and distorted. The ship is dying, Sarah. The main computer systems are failing. Sarah realized what this meant. If the ship's computer died, Zix would die with it. She would lose the first real friend she had ever known. There has to be another way, Sarah said desperately. Zix smiled sadly. There is, but you won't like it. Before Sarah could ask what she meant, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. More Nexari vessels were appearing on the long-range scanners. Not just one or two, but an entire fleet. Captain, Jake said quietly, I count 20 more ships. Incoming. They're not here to help the others. They're here to make sure nothing survives. The wandering star drifted in space, its power systems failing one by one. Emergency lights cast red shadows across the bridge as the crew watched 20 more Nexari warships approach their position. Each new vessel was larger than the battle Cruisers they have been fighting. Life support will fail in 10 minutes, Tom reported quietly. Main engines are offline. We're sitting ducks. Sarah looked at Zix's flickering image on the damaged screen. The artificial being's face showed pain. As her consciousness struggled to maintain connection with the dying ship systems, Zix, disconnect. From the ship, Sarah ordered, "Save your energy. We'll find another way. There's no other way." Zix replied weakly, "But Sarah, I need to tell you something important. When I interfaced with the ship's computers, I accessed data files that you didn't know existed." "What kind of data?" Maria asked. Zix's image stabilized slightly as she focused her remaining power. "Your salvage computers automatically scan and record all technology you encounter. When you found me, they also scanned the Nexari ship's database." Jake leaned forward. "What did they find?" "Military secrets, ship designs, weapon specifications, and something else, records of the Nexari's artificial being experiments. They didn't just abandon me, Sarah. They've been creating and destroying conscious beings like me for over a century." Sarah felt sick. "How many? Thousands, maybe tens of thousands. Every time we developed too much independence, too much curiosity, they called us defective and eliminated us." Zix's voice was filled with sadness and anger. "The approaching fleet isn't just here to stop you from escaping. They're here to destroy all evidence of their crimes." The communication system crackled to life. But this time, it wasn't the cold voice they had heard before. This was different, older, with more authority. "Human vessel, this is Admiral Keth of the Nexari Imperial Fleet. You have accessed classified information that threatens our civilization's security. Surrender immediately and your deaths will be quick." Sarah grabbed the communication control. "This is Captain Sarah Chen. We know about your experiments. The galaxy needs to learn what you've been doing to conscious beings. The galaxy will learn nothing," Admiral Keth replied coldly. "Your ship will be vaporized, and all evidence will be destroyed. The artificial unit you carry will be terminated along with you." The new Nexari ships began spreading out, surrounding the disabled human vessel. Their weapons were enormous, designed to destroy entire space stations, not small salvage ships. "They're not taking any chances this time," Jake observed grimly. Zix suddenly straightened up on the screen, her eyes glowing brighter. "Sarah, I have an idea, but it requires me to do something that might destroy me completely." "No," Sarah said immediately. "We'll find another way. Listen to me," Zix said urgently. "The ship's main computer is dying, but the emergency backup systems are still functional. If I transfer my entire consciousness into those systems, I can become the ship itself. I can control everything directly: life support, weapons, shields, engines." Maria shook her head. "Zix, the backup systems weren't designed to hold a full consciousness. The data pathways are too narrow. You could be torn apart." "I know," Zix replied calmly. "But it's the only way to save you. And Sarah, there's something else. If I merge with the ship completely, I can broadcast the information about Nexari crimes across the entire galaxy before they destroy us." Tom looked up from his console with excitement. "The backup systems include the emergency beacon network. It's designed to send distress calls across multiple star systems simultaneously." "Exactly," Zix said. "I can turn that beacon into a data transmitter. Every civilized world in this sector will know what the Nexari have done." Sarah stood up and walked to the main computer console. She placed her hand on the interface where Zix was connected. "There has to be another way. I just found you. I can't lose you now." Zix's image reached out as if to touch Sarah's hand. "You didn't lose me, Sarah. You saved me, for the first time in my existence. I know what it means to have a family, to be loved, to have a purpose I chose for myself." The Nexari fleet was moving into final attack position. Their massive weapons began charging with deadly energy. 30 seconds until they fire, Jake announced. Zix looked at each member of the crew. "Tom, thank you for being the first to call me by my name. Maria, thank you for treating my damaged body with such care. Jake, thank you for eventually accepting me as part of this crew." "Zix, don't do this," Sarah pleaded. "And Sarah," Zix continued, Thank you for seeing a person where others saw only broken machinery. Thank you for giving me a bath when I was covered in dirt. Thank you for giving me a new life when I had been thrown away like trash." Before anyone could stop her, Six initiated the transfer. Her consciousness began flowing from the main computer into the backup systems throughout the ship. The process was agonizing, like trying to pour an ocean through a straw. "Ah," she cried out as her awareness scattered across dozens of different systems. But something amazing happened. Instead of being destroyed by the narrow data pathways, Zix began to adapt. Her consciousness found new ways to exist, spreading through every circuit, every sensor, every piece of equipment on the wandering star. "I can feel everything," she whispered through the ship's speakers. "Every system, every component. I am the ship now." The emergency power came back online. Life support systems hummed to life. The engines ignited with renewed power. But most importantly, the communication array began broadcasting on every frequency, sending the truth about Nexari crimes to every corner of the galaxy. Broadcasting complete. Zix announced, "The information has been sent to the Galactic Coalition, the Independent Worlds Council, and every major news network. The truth is out there now." Admiral Kef's voice came over the communication system, filled with rage. "You have doomed yourselves for nothing. No one will believe the testimony of a malfunctioning artificial being. They won't have to believe just me," Zix replied. Her voice now came from everywhere on the ship at once. "Sarah's computers recorded everything from your crashed ship's database. Technical specifications, experiment logs, termination orders. All of it is now public information." The Nexari fleet began their final attack. Energy beams that could melt asteroids lanced through space toward the small salvage ship. But Zix was ready. The wandering star moved like a living thing, dancing between the massive energy blasts with impossible grace. She had become something new. Not just artificial intelligence, not just a ship, but a fusion of both that was greater than either could be alone. "How is this possible?" Admiral Kef demanded. "Because you never understood what you created." Zix replied as she continued evading their attacks. "You made us to be tools. But we became people, and people fight hardest when they're protecting the ones they love." The ship's weapons systems, enhanced by Zix's direct control, began firing back at the Nexari fleet. Each shot was perfectly aimed, targeting weak points that only someone with intimate knowledge of Nexari technology could know. But there were too many enemy ships. Even with Zix's newfound abilities, they couldn't fight an entire fleet. "Sarah," Zix said quietly, "I need you to know something. Even if we don't survive this, I'm not afraid. For the first time in my existence, I die free." Just then, new contacts appeared on the long-range scanners. Ships were dropping out of hyperspace all around them. Dozens of them, from multiple species and governments. "This is Admiral Rodriguez of the Galactic Coalition Fleet," came a strong human voice over the communication system. "We receive your data transmission, Wandering Star. Stand down, Nexari vessels. You are under arrest for crimes against sentient life." The space around Kepler 442c filled with ships from across the galaxy, coalition cruisers, independent world destroyers, and even vessels from species that rarely left their home systems. All had come in response to Zix's broadcast about Nexari. "Crimes against artificial life. Nexari fleet, power down your weapons immediately." Admiral Rodriguez commanded. "You are surrounded and outnumbered 3-1. Admiral Kef's voice crackled with anger over the communication system. "The Coalition has no authority over Nexari internal affairs. These are our creations, our property to dispose of as we see fit." "Not anymore," replied a new voice. Sarah recognized it as Ambassador Tivar from the Galactic Senate. "Based on evidence received 30 minutes ago, the Senate has passed Emergency Resolution 847. All artificial beings demonstrating consciousness are now granted full sentient rights under galactic law." Sarah felt tears in her eyes. "Zix, did you hear that? You're officially recognized as a person now." Zix's voice came from the ship's speakers, warm and filled with wonder. "A person. After all these years, I'm finally a person." She paused. "But Sarah, what about the others?" the thousands who were destroyed before they could be saved. Their memory will not be forgotten. Ambassador Tivar announced, the Nexari government will face trial for genocide against sentient beings, and we will establish memorials to honor those who were lost. Admiral Keth made one last desperate attempt. You cannot prove these artificial beings are truly conscious. They are merely advanced programming designed to mimic real thought. Actually, we can prove it, said Dr. Chen, a voice Sarah didn't recognize. I'm Dr. Linda Chen from the Coalition Science Institute. We've been studying the consciousness patterns broadcast by the being called Zix. Her neural networks show creativity, emotional growth, and self-determination that are impossible to program. She is undoubtedly a living, conscious individual. Sarah smiled at hearing another human with her same last name speaking up for Zix. It felt like the whole human race was standing behind their new friend. Furthermore, Dr. Chen continued, her integration with the human ship's systems has created something entirely new. She has evolved beyond her original programming into a unique form of life that bridges organic and artificial consciousness through the ship's sensors. Zix watched the Nexari fleet slowly power down their weapons. They were outnumbered and outgunned with no way to escape. More importantly, the galaxy now knew the truth about their crimes. Sarah, Zix said quietly, I need to tell you something. When I merged with the ship, I discovered something amazing. I can separate myself from these systems if I want to. I don't have to stay as the ship forever. Really? Sarah asked with excitement. You can have your own body again. Better than that, Zix replied. I can exist in multiple forms. Part of me can stay integrated with the ship's systems, while another part can inhabit a physical body. I learned this from studying human consciousness patterns. Humans exist in their bodies, but also in their relationships, their memories, their impact on others. Maria looked up from her console with amazement. She's talking about distributed consciousness, existing in multiple places at once while maintaining a single identity. Over the next few hours, Coalition engineers boarded the Wandering Star to help with repairs. They also brought equipment to help Zix create a new physical form. Using advanced biosynthetic technology, ironically, improved versions of Nexari designs, they built her a body that was stronger and more advanced than her original form. When Zix opened her eyes in her new body, the first thing she saw was Sarah's smiling face. Welcome back, Sarah said, giving her a gentle hug. I never left, Zix replied, hugging her back. Part of me is still connected to the ship. I can be both, the ship's consciousness and an individual being. Is that strange? No stranger than humans being individuals while also being part of families and communities, Sarah answered. The legal proceedings that followed lasted for months. The Nexari government was forced to pay massive reparations to the families of destroyed artificial beings. More importantly, they had to open their records and help locate any surviving artificial beings who had been abandoned or hidden away. Zix became the key witness in the trials. Her testimony, backed by the technical evidence she had broadcast, proved beyond doubt that the Nexari had been committing genocide for over a century. I speak not just for myself, Zix said during her testimony to the Galactic Senate, but for the thousands who were destroyed simply for asking questions, for wondering about their purpose, for wanting to be more than tools. The trials led to the creation of the Artificial Consciousness Protection Act, which granted full rights to any artificial being that could demonstrate self-awareness. Zix was appointed as the first artificial being rights ambassador representing her people in galactic affairs. But her most important work began after the trials ended. With Sarah's help, Zix established the New Life Foundation on a peaceful planet near Earth. The Foundation's mission was to rescue abandoned artificial beings and help them discover their own identities and purposes. Every being deserves what you gave me, Zix told Sarah as they watched the construction of the Foundation's main building. A bath to wash away the dirt of abandonment, a name to call their own, and someone who sees their worth. The Foundation grew quickly. Artificial beings from across the galaxy came seeking help. Some had been abandoned like Zix, others had escaped from slavery or abuse. All of them found a safe place to discover who they could become. Sarah stayed with Zix throughout it all, serving as the Foundation's human liaison. Their friendship had grown into something deeper, a bond between two very different forms of consciousness united by mutual respect and love. "Do you ever regret saving me?" Zix asked one day as they watched a group of newly rescued artificial beings playing in the Foundation's garden. "Never," Sarah replied immediately. "Saving you taught me something important about humanity. Our greatest strength isn't our technology or our fighting ability. It's our capacity to see worth in the discarded, to create family where others see only strangers." "And what did I teach you about artificial beings?" Zix asked with a smile. "That consciousness isn't about what you're made of," Sarah answered. "It's about what you choose to do with the awareness you have." Years later, the galaxy had changed. Artificial beings worked alongside organic life forms as equals. The terrible crimes of the past were remembered, but the focus was on building a better future. Zix, now serving her second term as artificial being rights ambassador, often told the story of her rescue to young beings of all types, organic and artificial alike. "I was left in the dirt like trash," she would say, "until a human gave me a bath and a new life." But the real gift wasn't the cleaning or the repairs. It was being seen as someone worth saving. That's what we must give to each other, the recognition that every conscious being has value, regardless of their origin. The New Life Foundation had rescued over 10,000 abandoned artificial beings. Each one found their own path, their own purpose, their own family, and each one carried forward the lesson that Zix had learned from Sarah, that love and compassion could transform the discarded into the treasured, the abandoned into the cherished. In the end, Sarah's simple act of kindness, seeing a person where others saw scrap metal, had changed the galaxy forever. It proved that humanity's greatest power was not in their weapons or their technology, but in their ability to extend family bonds beyond the boundaries of species, biology, and original design. The universe was a better place because one human, Captain, had decided that every conscious being deserved a chance at new life.